Hello and welcome to Kabbalistic Astrology, the world's weekly forecast. This is Matt Taylor and my name is Nicola Ercolani, and we do a weekly podcast where we're this time together for the first time actually doing the podcast in the same room because we're currently in Pompeii. This is a city in Italy, very close to Naples, and we will still bring you like all the bits and pieces that you need for the week, so you can serve your way
it's
around.
great to be sitting here right next to you.
Oh,
I don't know where to look now.
Yeah, maybe we look there.
Yes, well, let's talk about some of the energies of the week with the astrology. So firstly, we have that we're in the lunar cycle of Pisces. This is week 2, so we will be coming to a full moon next week. The moon of Pisces, the lunar cycle of Pisces is very interesting because here we're finishing off the astrological year. So Pisces comes at the end. And we know in the astrology that Pisces is the two fish, the fish on the top and the fish on the bottom. And a lot of our work during this sign is to look at where we have a victim consciousness and transform it into something of where we can lead and be stronger and share. So it's like the bottom fish is just a big jellyfish where it's going nowhere, following, no direction, very floaty in life. Into the top fish, which has a spine, which is full of direction, a shark. Yeah. So as I said last week, in the ancient text, the word for Pisces is Adar, A-D-A-R. And it connects to the word Idra, which is spine.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So, I didn't know.
Yeah. So,
I love that.
Yeah. So we are looking at parts of our life where we feel, as I said, victim, floaty, following,
like a boneless
addiction,
piece of something.
Yeah, really, depression, melancholy, all of that. And we are transforming a lot of that karma. So as a Pisces myself, I do get to do it all year, but for all of us going into the sign, it will show up, where we have a victim consciousness. What's a victim consciousness? Things where I think I can't make a difference, I'm no use, I have no power, this kind of idea where we have no identity, no influence, nothing to offer, nothing to share, and everything is, beyond me to do anything about. Yeah. So we put all the power outside of ourselves and we kind of forget that we have any. Yeah. So this is where we're shifting that in this particular month. So anything where you feel that you cannot do anything about it, this is the month to really go against that nature and do something about it, do something more proactive.
I think what's really interesting also is sometimes the victim mentality is not really conscious. So very often you're not aware that you actually behave like in a certain behavior pattern or in a certain way, that you are conscious of your victimhood, because it is like a trap. Like what I went through the last 1 to 2 weeks is like to have this ability and the great pleasure to see the behavior patterns that I used to have or that I had, where I would like fall into traps. So that means like it looks like very shimmery and shiny, and it looks like kind of good, but in actual reality, it's a trap. It's trapping you into a victimhood position. And I think that's also like for us, we have a lot of listeners which are very spiritual and like on the way since a long time, and it might also be applicable for you. So this is more like this is like spirituality like 7.0. It's not 2 or 3, it's like 7.0, more like the upper version, where you like really have to like go against your blind victimhood patterns. And these, when they're blind, they're like, I think it's really important that the people that you trust the most, that you like, that that they do not, like, I would say, blame you or like make you feel bad about a weakness of yourself. Like when you have a gut feeling about something, that's my learning of this week, when you have a gut feeling about something, trust yourself, even if the feelings are not positive, even if you're like, not in your best self in this gut feeling, but that probably leads to the solution of this blind part.
Yeah, I like the point because, there are two planets that rule over Pisces. One is Neptune and one is Jupiter. If you look at Neptune, what it offers is that intuition.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but also it offers that in the dreams and fantasies, which is okay. But, Pisces gets stuck in the fantasy of something, in the dream of something. And the difference between the two is one sounds wonderful and amazing, and I'm just sitting here in the swill of fantasy of, this is going to work out so well, it's all going so well, but I'm not doing anything about it. Where the senses of intuition are somewhat like, I've got to go and do this, but it's somewhat uncomfortable. And of course, in spiritual work, we're looking for not pain, we're not like and not like an unhealthy way of being uncomfortable, but an discomfort in some way. I'm breaking something in myself, right? So this is the difference between intuition and fantasy. Yeah. Now, Pisceans are also, because of this Neptune spirituality, they're very connected, very intuitive, come with a lot of wisdom, see a lot of things, feel a lot of things, all great. But because of that endlessness, that senses of spiritual, like endless in the cosmic, they don't really have senses of going forward, right? They just sit in the clouds. Yeah. They just sit in that. So, so really calling yourself, being able to bring yourself back into the body, back into action, back into doing something, is the way that Pisceans can be in the upper worlds and the lower worlds at the same time. Yeah. So they have the ability, but sometimes they get stuck up in the upper worlds. And we see this a lot in the mainstream, because people who are Piscean or have their Neptune in their chart, not well placed, these are very creative people who have addictions or very very bad, like, or very negative, negative behaviors. They hurt themselves, suicides, addictions. So this is something with musicians and artists. No, they have something with their Neptune or something in their Pisces. If it's not well placed, then they can have these kind of negative things, going on. So that's where all that drug creativity world gets merged into no difference. So, often people on drugs are trying to connect to something higher. They're not like they're doing it for bad reasons, but they're just not doing the connection to the higher realms in the right way. So this is all tapped in with that. So this is where Pisceans, really have a lot of work to do with those kinds of senses of addictions. But if you wanted to look at addictions in a different way, it could be addictions to other things besides cigarettes and drugs and drink. It can be addictions to other things. So one of the things that we want to do is look at what is outside of me that has power. This is a really simple way of dealing with the month of Pisces. What do I give my power to? And even, am I addicted to power? So am I doing something because it makes me feel a certain way rather than generating that feeling already inside of me? Yeah.
I feel to say that, like, people born in the sign of Pisces, all the people I know that are born in the sign of Pisces, they have a very, very sharp intuition. And they have the tendency to, because, society lies a lot to you, especially when you're a child. And they don't lie like because they want to do you harm or whatever, because sometimes they just don't know better. And sometimes they just don't want to be seen. So, but as a born Pisces, what I feel very deeply to say is, like, trust your intuition, especially at the moment, because I feel this is like really the key to healing, to unfolding, to receiving, to connection, to, like, the key through this, like, wormhole that we're currently going through is, I feel really the intuition. Trust your gut feeling, like your what you know, and don't let anybody, and especially also not yourself, talk you out of it. Like we have learned to like, you know, to like really talk ourselves out of what we know, because we don't want to be a certain way. And I feel that's like super important at the moment, to really like stay within your own truth.
Yeah. And the moon this week starts in the sign of Taurus. So here we have a combination of Pisces and Taurus, which, you know, sort of can bring out the addictions to the physical world. It brings a lot of healing with it. It's a great healing combination. Physical healings, inner healing, it's great for that. So we will see maybe this week where some things that were not otherwise in a state of disrepair be able to be mended, you know, things that look like things, bringing things together, you know, unifying things, bringing peace to something. One of the interesting things that's happening this week is that it looks like there can be a resolution between the Northern Ireland, Britain sort of EU situation with, you know, that sort of thing. So it's able to unify things this week. You can bring things together. And on the shadow side, it's bringing up where we have addictions, right? Where we're taken into those, what you were saying, where glimmery, shiny, you know, things that offer us something, and we just float in there very unconsciously. So we can see what sort of traps there are, what unconscious root patterns that we have, what we get sucked in by, you know, you know, what fool's gold, I think, you know, is you know, the shadow
that
side.
It, to me, it came the thing, what's glittering, it's not gold.
Yeah, exactly. That's the shadow side of this week. So that's those two. Also, what's happening is that, speaking of the Pisces and the Taurus energy that we just did, the other planet that rules Pisces besides Neptune is Jupiter, and the planet that rules Taurus is Venus. And Jupiter and Venus are conjuncting in Aries. So these two planets, Venus and Jupiter, are going to be on the same angle in the sign of Aries. So what does that mean? Aries is the sign of me, my existence, my being, who I am. And Jupiter and Venus are good fortune. They always bring like essences of fortune, of abundance, of those sorts of things, and also drive us to do, as the moon went past it earlier in the week, it's driven last week into doing internal work about where we're blocked. Yeah, it gives us access to the subconscious or other realm. So here we will maybe have enlightenments around what we're doing with money. Pisces are great with money. They're excellent with money if they're spending it well, not on their addictions and their and all of the things that they can. So they're very good business people. They may not be the wealthiest people in the world, but they have a good sense of how to create abundance because they're ruled by the fish, right? So they have a natural instinct about it. And Jupiter and Venus combinations are always about creating some sort of abundance there. Yeah. Now, this week, the moon was also conjunct Uranus, which is where I want to shake things up and see it. So this whole combination really is about, where do I put my resources, my abundance, into things that don't serve me? And where do I want to shift it into better things that do serve me? What are the blockages? What are the traps? Where is the fool's gold? What are the old belief systems? All of that, particularly around finances and money movie, are going to be very strong. Yep. So you'll be able, it's good to see the shadow side of it. It's good to see the blockages, the old movies, the past lives, the whatever it is that you feel like instinctively bring you movies about money or finances, and you'll be able in some way to really sense that. Now, there is because of the last week, because of the inner work with the moon, Venus, Jupiter combinations, you'll be able still with the Venus Jupiter combinations to create transformation, to create new belief systems about yourself and about what you can do and what you can generate. Aries with money are about new beginnings, you know? So this could be ideas about new ways to generate money, new ways to generate abundance, new ways to deal with money in itself, new ideas for your business. Like, we need to open up that space and clear out all the past addictive behaviors that we had with it, and all of the emotions that we have with it, and all of the places that we're tricked by it are going to be, you know, super strong to be able to deal with it. And finally, we have, so that, does that make sense?
Totally.
Because it was a lot of planets.
I don't even have to, I think I didn't have to add anything to that because it makes perfect sense.
Okay, and the other thing just to finish with is that Pluto is finalizing on Capricorn. It's 29 degrees Capricorn. Saturn is almost 29 degrees Aquarius. It's 28 point something. So next week or the week after, we're coming into 29 degrees with these two planets. And these two planets, when they finish, are also the planets of ends, finalizations. You know, we call it deaths, but it's not really that strong. It's no one's going to die. It's just that the end of phases, the death of phases. So just to speak to the Saturn on 29 degrees Aquarius, because it's a super journey that it's done. So it went into Aquarius at the end of 2020, December 2020. And it was, you know, talked about a lot in astrology, because when it went into Aquarius, it went in at the same time as Jupiter.
On 0 degrees Capricorn.
That's 0 degrees Aquarius. Yeah. Oh. Yeah. So when Saturn and Jupiter go into a sign at 0 degrees, we get that energy for 200 years. So every time so Aquarius is an air energy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So every time now for the next 200 years, they will come together only in air signs, right? And they come together every 20 years. So every 20 years, they'll either be in Aquarius, in Libra, or Gemini for a whole 200-year cycle. So that beginning finished the end of the last 200-year cycle, which was a very earth sign. What do you do? Where do you live? How much do you earn? How productive are you? What are your daily routines? You know, how do you look after physically? Yeah. How do you physically look after yourself? Like, it's all, what do you know, it's all very earthy things, right? Things that we experience here.
There were also a lot of things invented during this time, like electricity, a lot of healthcare stuff, very physical things as well.
Yeah. And we are now moving into the air cycle for 200 years. So that is really rules with the head. Yeah. What I think, what I speak, what my view is, how I debate, how I articulate, communications, all technologies, all sorts of things that get me from my information in my own head, plus how it transfers information around to other people's heads. So here we're very mentally stimulated. So this is, you know, really represented a time when mental health is now more important than maybe any it gets heightened, you know, it becomes really the health system to look after. So to, you know, really get conscious about what am I thinking, what am I speaking, who am I meeting,
how does my mind work,
especially
coming like the incoming now from this metaverse where we will like work in a non-reality, and understanding what the mind body connection does, even though we're constantly online, we're constantly like in a non-reality.
That's right,
that the body is secreting in a certain way when the mind does a certain thing. I think this will be huge in this 200 years.
That's right. So that's really interesting, you know. So all of that thought process and experiential process of information and communication is going to be super, super heightened and amplified is a great word for the next 200 years. Also, what it does is like Earth wants structures, routines, and hierarchies, right? So over the 200 years, we built a lot of we placed a lot of importance around those things, building things, putting in hierarchies, job titles, climbing ladders, all of that. So that energy still exists, but it's not the amplified energy. The air energy is very contrary to that. Air energy likes flatness, no? It likes equality, it likes a fairness or a justice. So all of these systems will start to become, I wouldn't say exactly flat, but definitely more flattened, you know? So particularly because earth signs are very monetary and financially orientated, that the flatness of the financial systems will start to weigh out. So I know, like for in Spain, for example, I think that the you know, the minimum wage has increased like 3 or 4 times in 3 years. You know, it's like it's that, and then you know there's anyway, it's a kind of example. It's only just started this 200 years, but you will see that this becomes more increased. People not hanging around in corporations for 50 years, or people wanting to change. You know, air is very change. It's very mutable. It's like, what's next? I want to progress. I want to move. Where earth is very sedentary and conservative. Neither one better than the other, but very different.
It's just a different experience.
It's a very different experience that we're moving into. So as Saturn finishes in Aquarius with this 29 degrees, it will really give a big kick to this kind of level playing field. And then it will go into Pisces, and I'll talk about that another time. But over the next 2 or 3 weeks, we'll really feel where we want to, you know, just like bear our thoughts more in mind about what we're thinking. Because if we don't, what we do is we speak to our thought, we act to our thought, and that becomes our reality.
Yeah, and also finding like options to clear your subconscious, because the mind is consisted of conscious mind, and then there's this huge subconscious landscape. And what I feel is like really like now on the edge about to be done is we need to understand how to clear the subconscious mind in order to have more energy in the conscious mind, in order to transform more data. You know, like the data transformation will be a huge game in the next 50 years at least. And therefore we need to start to understand how to clear the subconscious landscape. And then so we have more energy in the conscious mind.
Yeah. And one of the things that Saturn does, it either makes things very physical or very metaphysical. And because Saturn rules Capricorn, which is very physical, but it also rules Aquarius, which is very metaphysical. So because Saturn has been in Aquarius, it makes things more metaphysical. In other words, I need to get thought from the greater mind into my mind rather than what I physically, logically see. So we're moving into a space where thought becomes illogical. And my thought process is not so linear. Yeah, my thought process is more of a download experience, like your app is having, you know, and you upgrade. And that is kind of what Saturn in Aquarius.
That's what we basically did all day
to day. You know, and also Saturn, like Aquarius, is very collective, and Saturn also shows the fears. So over the past 2.5 years that it's been there in Aquarius, it's really brought up the collective fear. Yeah, what are the collective fears? So we've been through the virus, and we've been through energy, and we've been through finances, and we've been through all sorts of things, food, all sorts of things, not just as me in Spain, and Nicole went through something different in Switzerland, but that's all around the world, those collective experiences. One of the things air also does is looks at how things join up, you know. So we will see a change in
that,
in what do you call it, logistics, for example, or processes. They'll begin to, first of all, they'll begin to collapse, and then they'll rebuild themselves in a new way, which is what we're seeing. So for like mail in Britain, it's just like months before it arrives. Or food from one country to another. You know, all of these systems are breaking down. The Chinese systems that we all depended on are somewhat gone. You know, so we're all moving. I think as much as an air energy is very collective, it's also, as a paradox, very local. It's very community orientated. So we will see that many of the processes, logistics, all become a lot closer, you know, not so global.
And I think also what this energy for the next 200 years contains is to understand that there's a collective mind. And the collective mind kind of builds certain structures, how you have to think in a certain country, in a certain region, in a certain language, etc. And then there is your conscious mind, and then there's your subconscious mind, and there's the collective conscious mind and the collective subconscious mind. And you, wherever you are, like now we're in Italy, so the collective mind in Italy is a completely different one than in Spain, than in Switzerland, than in the States, than in Australia, than wherever. So understanding that you have a conscious and a subconscious landscape, and the collective has the same. And the collective doesn't always see what it sees, but from the outside, you always can see it. Like all these kind of mind games, I think these will be big in the next years. Yeah.
Exactly.
And that's amazing.
Yeah. And then the final point with the Pluto 29 degrees, that is, I'll finish.
Yeah.
Is just to say that this has been a 14 or 15 year rejuvenation of governments, administrations, and work systems. So we will see that this Pluto in 29 degrees Capricorn really finishes looking at and detoxifying a lot of big corporations, big banks, and big government, as it has done for the last 15 years.
Amazing. We're running out of battery, so we have to wrap that one up this week a little bit earlier than usually, because we're like here on the kitchen table trying to do the things that we do. We wish you a very beautiful evening. Thank you so much for listening, or day, whatever you are in. And we'll see each other next week.
Yeah.
For more on Pluto, maybe a little bit deeper.
Bit more.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because in March, Pluto goes into Aquarius. So I really want to know what's going on there.
Sure.
Okay, you guys, thank you so much for listening, everyone. Have a nice evening. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, bye.